Want to one-shot entire camps? Today we're gonna test Tribunal's damage on normal, elite and bosses. And we will see if it can dethrone the almighty Echo. Tribunal only holds 3 shots in the magazine, so how strong can it really be? Welcome to another Weapon Insights. In this episode, the Tribunal shotgun. We're gonna check out its true potential, and I can tell you, this is worth your time. Do you remember the Fatum video? Forget about it. Well, in order to gain access to Tribunal, you need to complete the Torment 6 challenge. So make sure to check out my video on the channel how to do that best. And there's also the guide on the Torment pages, so make sure to watch that as well. Then you can get your grip on Tribunal, and you're gonna be amazed by this. Let's check the Mysteria first, and then we'll talk about the strength and weaknesses of the gun and why you should take Tribunal onto your next walk. Dashing or sliding charges the next shot with shock. Stacks up to 3 times. Manual reloads also charge the next shot with shock. And last but not least, charge overkills trigger a shock explosion. What is meant by the term stack? Well, what the effect actually does is charge one of the 3 barrels, indicated by a glowing button on the gun. So stack is a bit misleading. The next shot from that barrel will be charged. And we gotta say here, the lightning's arc has a rather short range. So in order to make best use of it, you actually want the enemies to be piled up. With every bolt jump, the lightning deals 50% of the initial damage. So if you hit the first enemy for 100, the second enemy will take 50, the next enemy 25 damage, and so on. You get the idea. If you're not familiar with the overkill yet, here's again a brief digression on the overkill mechanic. Easy to explain if we have a look at Blood of a Banshee with hits from hypnosis. Let's assume an enemy has 100 health, and you deal 60 damage with your first shot. The enemy is then left with 40 hit points after Einstein's theory of relativity. Then you shoot the enemy again for 60 damage, overkilling him with 20 hit points. So every point of damage above the hit points of the enemies counts as overkill. For Blood of a Banshee, there is a certain threshold to overkill that you have to get in order to trigger it. But here's now the funny thing about Tribunal. It doesn't actually state an exact overkill value. And that is beautiful, because the shock explosion triggers at the value of 20 damage of overkill. And that means, with the high base damage of Tribunal, you will most likely overkill all the time. Let's talk about the rest of the gear now. Since the latest patches, Iron Cross duration has been nerfed so hard that I simply cannot recommend it anymore. Especially since the spell recharge is too long as well, so duration and recharge don't fit anymore. Plus, we already have our zap from Tribunal itself, and the same status effects will simply override themselves, so we need to find something better. Miasma is a good choice, so is Bell. But we need to consider the ammo count. Before we make a final conclusion, let's talk about the other slots. So as you know, I'm a big fan of Dynamo Ring. The question is, does it still make sense to bring Dynamo Ring along when you already have a shock weapon in your hands? And especially, do you want to kill the enemies with Dynamo Ring when you actually want to trigger the charged overkill from Tribunal? And additionally, if you think ahead, you can already assume that the gun is strong for larger crowds and maybe not so much for single high HP enemies. But let's not forget about the first Mysterium. Dashing or sliding applies lightning to the barrel. So we could think about adding Meteor Ring or the old school Crown of Fire, which is also beautiful on its own, because using Crown of Fire means you'll have to reload on just very rare occasions. But bringing Crown of Fire would mean that we cannot use Burning Stake anymore. If you're playing with Miasma or Bell, fine. But I think wasting a shot on both of them with your shotgun is not worth it, and you might actually want to bring a boss killer, or let's name it a double shotgun loadout with Echo. We still don't know if you have to, but bringing Echo is never wrong. So shooting Miasma or Bell with a shotgun with a low ammo count maybe not the best idea. So in my opinion, your best bet is Shadow Mystery. It's just the purest of joy to sprint into the enemies, dash around, charge your bullets, potentially freeze and damage the enemies, and then overkill them with the charged shot from Tribunal. Rinse and repeat. And with that, for the 50% more damage, we bring Burning State. So what about the Relic and our light spell then? Well, an obvious choice could be Blood of the Banshee, because since you try to overkill anyway, you might think that adding a second overkill item might be beneficial. And this actually does work. I did some tests, and if you get the overkill values right, both overkills are executed at the same time. But maybe there is a better option. The next idea would be Curfane, and yes, this is definitely a valid choice and maybe the strongest choice. Since Curfane's damage scales with the damage of your gun, you can reach some insane damage numbers with it, and it's just a sight to see. But again, in my opinion, that is not necessary, so instead I opt to use Eye of the Madwoman in order to kill low HP enemies, and if possible, have them be zapped due to already applied shock to all nearby enemies. So Eye of the Madwoman becomes another AoE. And what about the light spell then? Since it's a close quarter combat right now, Shockwave is amazing. But I think almost everything fits. So the question is, does one particular spell fit best? What about having an enemy being stunned and having a few more enemies electrocuted? Oh yeah, it's time to bring Lightning Bolt. Why though? Well, lightning chains damage, as we know, and having multiple enemies shocked makes sure they all take the AoE damage, which would also be a pro argument for Iron Cross, and thus the hit from Tribunal will not only hit 3 but 5 enemies, with the first enemy being stunned as well, making sure that we deal even more damage and then having that increased damage spread through the lightning. The effect? Well, you saw that already in the background. It's incredible. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about our beats and prophecies. Obviously, our very first choice is the short range beat, since we need the stamina for dashing, and we don't want shooting to take that from us. So it also makes sense to have the dash stamina beat. The sprint stamina beat is an option, but I didn't take it. Instead, I thought having the free arcana beat is never wrong, to pick more of the strong arcana we aim for. And one of those is the reload dash arcana. Since we're not taking Crown of Fire, the reload dash arcana will provide us with a never-ending magazine of charged shots. We explicitly don't want the kill reload arcana, because kills alone don't charge the gun, so the dash reload is natural to the gun. The rest of the beats is up to you. Since we're running a double shotgun build here and ammo reserves aren't too high, running the ammo preservation beat is valid. But we have more than enough firepower, and we won't even need both chests, so this is just convenience and not mandatory. Because there is another option, and this is what I chose. Do you remember what I said about the lightning bolt jumps? Well, this also applies to blessed hits. So you can swap in the blessed hit speed and even the blessed aim beat if you're up for it. And this will make you hit lightning arcs with insane damage numbers. Now, imagine adding in the final bullet arcana and maybe something like critical burn, and you can melt entire camps with a single shot. I kid you not, with a single shot from Tribunal. When I thought that Fatum was busted, well, now we have it. This is even more ridiculous. The only thing from me complaining is that you get this gun so late in the game that you already had to fight through the game beforehand anyway. So you deserve such a strong gun. But this build might be the strongest build I've played in a while, and since it doesn't rely on any arcana at all, whatever the game gives you, you're gonna be fine. So strong. And well, I also exaggerated when I said you need a boss killer. You actually don't. Shadow Mist with Tribunal is more than enough to take down the Dimacher. If you want to use Echo, sure, but you don't have to. And guys, that's it for today's video. Let me know in the comments if you tried Tribunal yet, and please let me also know which other guns you would like to see in the series in the future. Enjoy the rest of Witchfire Wednesday and have a good one.